X-66, meanwhile, had absorbed so much ambient moisture they had doubled in size and were now threatening to engulf the rope entirely. "Query the AI," announced with what sounded like genuine concern. "Should I contact the quantum physics department or the janitorial staff?" Both Zara sighed, watching as X-66 began to slowly descend, not so much climbing down as gradually losing the battle with gravity, and maybe the psychology department while you're at it. In the corner, the only remaining dry spot in the gym, T-Zixa had crystallized into what they later claimed was a completely intentional educational observation formation. Their surface displayed a repeating message in 7 different languages: humans are trying to kill us through physical improvement. It was going to be a long semester. After the rope climbing fiasco, now officially classified as a multidimensional moisture emergency, Zara decided to get creative. She spent an entire weekend designing what she considered to be the most basic obstacle course imaginable. The Academy's insurance department spent the following weekend updating their policies. Today, Zara announced to her class, gesturing at the course behind her, "We're going to have some fun." The collective psychic cry of distress triggered 3 different species' evolutionary defense mechanisms. "I have analyzed the configuration," T-Zixa announced, their crystalline structure vibrating with concern. "Query, are those what humans refer to as tires? The rubber-based torture devices?" "They're just for jumping through," Zara explained patiently. "Then you crawl under the nets, balance on the beam, and finish with a simple wall climb." KTL expanded nervously, accidentally engulfing a nearby monitoring drone. "Clarification required. You expect us to compress our forms to pass through solid objects, subject ourselves to mesh entanglement, maintain unidirectional stability, and scale a vertical surface, sequentially. Don't forget the monkey bars," Zara added cheerfully. Somewhere in the academy, 3 different safety protocols simultaneously activated. "I will attempt this challenge," VRX declared, their 6 legs moving with what might have been confidence or possibly a minor seizure. They approached the first tire with determination, carefully calculated the trajectory, and promptly got stuck halfway through. "Spatial anomaly detected," the gym's AI announced, attempting to reconcile arachnoid topology with 3-dimensional space. Meanwhile, X-66 had taken a different approach, attempting to flow through the tire like water through a pipe. This worked surprisingly well until they reached the net crawl, where their gelatinous form began dripping through the holes. "Structural integrity compromise in progress," they burbled anxiously, requesting immediate surface tension assistance. A small crowd had begun to gather outside the gymnasium's quantum-reinforced windows. Several students from the advanced physics department were taking notes, while a member of the xenobiology faculty appeared to be having an existential crisis. Keital, determined not to be outdone, approached the balance beam with what they probably thought was stealth. Being gaseous, they simply floated over it. Disqualified called out Meep from their hover jar. Clearly, maintaining physical contact with the apparatus is required for proper completion of the challenge. Actually, Zara began, but was interrupted by the sight of T-Zixa attempting the monkey bars. The crystalline being had misunderstood the concept and was trying to grow crystal formations between each bar, creating what looked like a particularly aggressive chandelier. Someone in the growing crowd outside had started recording. "Is this being live-streamed?" Zara asked the AI. Affirmative. "Current viewer count 2.7 million across 42 star systems. Trending #HumanTortureChamber." "It's not that bad," Zara protested, just as VRX finally freed themselves from the tire only to accidentally catapult into the climbing wall, creating an impressive spider web pattern of cracks with all 6 legs splayed in different dimensions. Structural integrity at 72% and falling, the AI helpfully announced. "Also, you have 47 new messages from the administration office." The video feed caught the exact moment X-66, still struggling with the net, accidentally absorbed part of it into their mass and began to panic digest the material. The resulting chemical reaction turned them a brilliant shade of purple and caused them to emit a high-pitched humming sound that shattered 3 of T-Zix's lesser crystalline appendages. "My offspring," came a booming telepathic voice from outside. A large, shimmering mass that could only be X-66's parental unit had arrived. What manner of military training facility is this? It's just P-class, Zara tried to explain, but her voice was drowned out by the arrival of more concerned parents, including what appeared to be a sentient nebula that might have been K-Tail's fourth-dimensional guardian. I have completed my analysis, announced a floating brain in an especially official-looking jar, presumably from the school board. This obstacle course contains no fewer than 17 different types of physical challenges that violate various interstellar safety protocols. But they're learning, Zara pointed out. Indeed, VRX had managed to create an entirely new form of climbing technique that involved using their own tangled legs as a makeshift ladder. The physics department was already writing a paper about it. Viewer count now at 15.3 million, the AI chimed in. Viral classification achieved. Detecting significant spike in emergency meeting requests from educational institutions across the galaxy. The nebula parent had begun to swirl ominously. Our children were enrolled to learn, not to be subjected to human endurance trials. These are learning exercises, Zara insisted, watching as K-Tail attempted to condense enough to use the monkey bars and instead created a localized rain shower. They're building strength, coordination, and problem-solving skills. Incoming priority message from Galactic Education Board, the AI, announced with what sounded like suppressed amusement. Subject: immediate reclassification of human physical education as extreme survival training. Zara looked at her watch. They still had 30 minutes of class left. Well, she said brightly, turning to her traumatized students, who's ready for the cool-down exercises? The resulting panic caused 3 new galactic regulations to be written on the spot. The Galactic Education Board convened in their ceremonial investigation chamber, which looked suspiciously like a high school gymnasium. Zara stood before them, trying not to smile as 7 of the most distinguished educators in the galaxy attempted to sit comfortably on bleachers. Professor Chen began High Administrator Zorlax, their tentacles arranging themselves in what they hoped was an intimidating pattern. We have reviewed the viral footage of your physical education methodologies. All 2 billion views of it, muttered another board member, a sentient cloud of cosmic dust wearing what appeared to be a bow tie. Would you care to explain, Zorlax continued, why you are subjecting our students to military-grade training exercises? Zara pulled out her tablet. These are standard Earth P activities. Look, I brought some videos from actual elementary schools. The collective gasp nearly depressurized the chamber. You subject your young to these trials, the cosmic dust cloud condensed in horror. Those small humans in the video are performing these acts voluntarily. Well, semi-voluntarily, Zara admitted. But yes, these are children's games. The obstacle course I set up was actually based on a playground. Evidence review in progress, announced the chamber's AI. Analyzing Earth playground footage. Warning: content may be disturbing to some viewers. The board watched in stunned silence as footage played of human children swinging, sliding, and monkey barring their way across various playground equipment. Fascinating, said Dr. YRK, hyper-intelligent shade of blue who served as the board's physical sciences expert. They appear to be actively seeking gravitational challenges for recreation. Perhaps a practical demonstration would help, Zara suggested innocently. I could show you a basic cartwheel. A cartwheel? Zorlax's tentacles tied themselves in a nervous knot. Before anyone could object, Zara performed a perfect cartwheel across the chamber floor. 3 board members activated their emergency shields. The cosmic dust cloud briefly achieved fusion. It's quite simple, Zara said, brushing off her hands. Would anyone like to try? In the interest of thorough investigation, Dr. YRK began, their blue shade wavering with uncertainty. What followed was immediately uploaded to the galactic social networks by the Chamber's AI, which later claimed it was required by transparency laws. Dr. YRK's attempt at a cartwheel created a new color. The cosmic dust cloud's try resulted in a brief weather system. Zorlax's tentacles achieved a configuration that topologists would study for decades. Viral content alert, the AI announced with what sounded suspiciously like glee. #Galactic Education fails trending across 17 dimensions. This is precisely our concern, Zorlak said from their new pretzel-like configuration. How can we classify these activities as educational when they clearly require superhuman abilities? But they don't, Zara protested. Humans are actually pretty average in terms of physical capabilities. We just practice. Practice, the word echoed around the chamber like a horrifying revelation. Yes, we get better through repetition and... Medical alert, the AI interrupted, detecting multiple cases of stress-induced molecular destabilization among board members. Zara watched as the most educated beings in the galaxy tried to process the concept of voluntary physical improvement through repeated discomfort. Perhaps, suggested the cosmic dust cloud, now sporting several small lightning storms, we should adjourn to review this new evidence from a safe distance. Of course, Zara agreed. But before you go, would anyone like to learn about something we call jump rope? The chamber evacuated so quickly it created a new form of faster-than-light travel. The official memo from the Galactic Education Board arrived with so many warning labels that it technically qualified as a hazardous material. Zara sat in the administrator's office, watching as the holographic document rotated slowly in the air, occasionally emitting small bursts of warning beeps. Well said, Principal Vex, their quantum probability field fluctuating with barely contained amusement. It appears you've made quite an impression, Professor Chen. Am I being fired? Zara asked, eyeing the document's pulsing red warnings. Quite the opposite. Vex's probability field sparkled with what might have been laughter. Your class has been officially redesignated as Advanced Human Survival Training and Introduction to Terrestrial Endurance Practices. It comes with a rather impressive hazard pay increase. The document helpfully projected a list of new warning labels required for all human P activities. Warning: this course contains movements humans consider basic. Danger: instructor may demonstrate activities without quantum stabilization. Caution: participation may lead to improved physical capabilities. Alert: activities may be disguised as games. We've had to add 3 new emergency protocols, Vex continued, and the insurance department had to invent new mathematics to calculate the premiums. But here's the interesting part: they gestured at another hologram, this one showing the Academy's enrollment statistics. We have a waiting list. Indeed, the projection showed hundreds of applications from students across the galaxy, all specifically requesting the Human Physical Education course. The Galactic Federation Academy prided itself on being the most prestigious educational institution in the known universe. Their brochures transmitted directly into the consciousness of interested parties, of course, boasted about their cutting-edge quantum physics department, their unparalleled xenobiology program, and their revolutionary approach to multidimensional mathematics. What they didn't mention was their desperate need to appear progressive by hiring their first human teacher. Because that's how Zara Chen found herself standing in the employee orientation chamber, trying not to laugh as the floating orb of consciousness that served as the HR director attempted to explain their inclusive hiring practices. We are most pleased to have a, what was the term? Ah yes, a human joining our faculty. The orb pulsed in various shades of corporate-approved blue. Though we must admit, your species' insistence on maintaining physical form seems rather primitive. Zara adjusted her Regulation Academy jumpsuit, which had clearly been designed by someone who'd only seen humans in ancient Earth television broadcasts. The shoulder pads were ridiculous. Well, we do like our bodies. We've grown quite attached to them. She grinned at her own joke, but the HR orb merely flickered in confusion. Yes, about that. The orb shifted to a more serious shade of purple. We're still not entirely clear on the concept of physical education. Our research suggests it involves ritualistic movement for no apparent purpose, perhaps some form of religious practice. Not exactly, Zara began, but was interrupted by a series of rapid-fire thought bursts from the orb. Nevertheless, the Board of Education has determined that understanding primitive species customs is crucial for our students' development. And since humans are now part of the Galactic Federation, the orb paused diplomatically, clearly trying not to mention how Earth had stumbled into faster-than-light travel by accidentally quantum entangling a toaster with a potato. You needed to tick a box on your diversity quota, Zara supplied helpfully. We prefer the term multicultural enrichment initiative, the orb corrected, flushing a embarrassed pink. Your credentials as a gym teacher from something called Ohio State were most interesting. Though we're still trying to verify if dodgeball is classified as a weapon of mass destruction under galactic law. Zara bit her lip to keep from laughing. If they were this worked up about dodgeball, wait until they saw her plans for the rope climb. She'd already had to submit a 47-page safety protocol just to get her whistle approved as teaching equipment. Well, she said, clasping her hands together with what she hoped was an appropriate mixture of enthusiasm and professionalism, when do I meet my first class? The orb flickered anxiously. About that. We've had to make some modifications to the standard gymnasium. The anti-gravity fields are in place, the emergency quantum stabilizers are online, and we've installed panic buttons every 3 meters as requested by the insurance provider. Zara nodded seriously, though internally she was already planning how to introduce jumping jacks to a class that included a student made entirely of gas and another that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Don't worry, she said cheerfully. I'll start them off easy, maybe just some light calisthenics. The HR orb hadn't been programmed to recognize the gleam in her eye, but if it had, it would have immediately updated the Academy's insurance policy. The newly renovated gymnasium gleamed with an otherworldly shine, quite literally. Since most of the equipment had been quantum reinforced to withstand contact with students who occasionally phased through solid matter. Zara stood in the center of the room, clipboard in hand, watching as her first class filtered, floated, and in one case oozed through the doors. Welcome to Physical Education 101, she announced brightly to the assembled beings. I'm Professor Chen, but you can call me Coach Zara. A crystalline entity raised what might have been an appendage. Query: is this course designation accurate? Our research indicates 101 implies basic instruction, yet we detect high levels of anxiety from species who have reviewed the curriculum. Zara glanced at her class roster. That would be T6A, noted for being pathologically literal. Right, let's start with some simple warm-ups. Everyone spread out and give yourself enough room to move. The class shuffled awkwardly. The gaseous student, Vaporix, expanded to fill roughly a quarter of the gymnasium before a classmate politely asked them to condense a bit. We'll begin with jumping jacks. Arms up, legs out, like this Zara demonstrated, her movements crisp and practiced. The resulting chaos would later be described in an emergency report as a multidimensional crisis of coordination. Axlixix, the gelatinous student, attempted to follow along but ended up splitting into 3 separate entities, each looking equally confused. The arachnoid student, Krzek, tangled 4 of their 6 legs and fell into what they later claimed was an entirely intentional defensive posture. Professor called out Meep, a floating brain in a hover jar. I appear to be lacking the necessary appendages for this exercise. Also, what is a jack and why must it jump? Zara pinched the bridge of her nose. Okay, maybe let's try something else. How about we do some simple stretches? Alert, the crystalline T6 had shifted to a warning shade of orange. My species does not stretch. We shatter. Noted, Zara said, making a quick annotation on her clipboard. What about running in place? The entire class stared at her in horror, except for Vaporix, who had accidentally drifted up to the ceiling and was trying to figure out where place was in 3-dimensional space. Running squeaked a small, furry creature that looked like a cross between a tribble and a math equation, as involuntary rapid locomotion, for no immediate survival purpose. It's fun, Zara tried to explain. The blank stares continued. It gets your heart pumping. Medical emergency protocol initiated, blared the gym's AI system, detected multiple instances of elevated cardiac distress at mere mention of recreational running. Zara quickly waved off the medical drones that had started descending from the ceiling. No, everything's fine. Let's move on to something else. Who's ready for dodgeball? The silence that followed was so profound that even Vaporix condensed in fear. According to the Galactic database, T6 announced in what might have been a whimper, if crystals could whimper, dodgeball is classified as a Class 3 combat simulation involving projectile weapons and evasive maneuvers. Query: are we being prepared for war? It's just a game, Zara protested. Look, the balls are soft. See, she bounced one off the floor, causing several students to activate their personal force fields. X-Lixix, still in 3 parts, began leaving a trail of anxious slime toward the exit. With respect, Professor, my species has a rich oral history of avoiding things that bounce. The hover jar containing Meep's brain began to fog up. I have analyzed this activity. You expect us to simultaneously track multiple projectiles, calculate their trajectories, execute evasive maneuvers, and attempt to strike others, all while maintaining optimal respiratory function. Well, when you put it that way, Zara started, but was interrupted by KRZT, who had finally untangled their legs. I have accessed my species' historical records, they announced gravely. This closely resembles the legendary training of the 1,000 Sorrows used to prepare elite warriors. Query, has Earth been secretly training super soldiers under the guise of educational activities? The room erupted into panicked theorizing. Vaporix became so agitated they briefly achieved plasma state, setting off 3 different safety protocols. The furry math equation began stress shedding, solving complex calculus problems with each tuft of fur that fell. Zara looked at her watch. They were exactly 12 minutes into her first class. Right, she said, making another note on her clipboard. Maybe we should start with the theory of physical education first. Can anyone tell me what they know about the concept of getting swole? The emergency evacuation sirens began to wail after the dodgeball incident, now formally documented in Academy records as the first great misunderstanding. Zara decided to try something she thought would be simpler. The climbing rope hung from the quantum-reinforced ceiling, its presence causing several students to file preemptive insurance claims. Today we're going to learn about climbing, Zara announced with what she hoped was reassuring enthusiasm. The class responded with their usual mix of terror and confusion. Professor Chen X-Lixix burbled nervously, their gelatinous form quivering like cafeteria jello during a quantum physics experiment gone wrong. I must express concern about the moisture retention properties of that fibrous ascending apparatus. Varex, the 6-legged arachnoid who had finally mastered the art of walking without tripping over themselves mostly, raised 3 appendages simultaneously. Point of clarification, is this another human war preparation exercise? It's just climbing, Zara explained, demonstrating by grabbing the rope. You go up, then you come down. Simple. K-Tal, who existed primarily as an organized collection of gases, drifted closer to inspect the rope. Query, you expect us to defy gravitational forces by manipulating this primitive fiber matrix. For what purpose? Physical fitness, Zara offered. The entire class began documenting their last will and testaments. I'll demonstrate, Zara said, smoothly climbing halfway up the rope. See? Nothing to it. Alert human engaging in vertical displacement without proper quantum stabilization, the gym's AI system announced. Calculating survival probability. Zara slid back down. Okay, who wants to go first? The silence was broken only by the sound of X-Lix's nervous surface tension bubbles popping. I will attempt this challenge, VRX finally volunteered, approaching the rope with all 6 legs moving in different directions. They grabbed the rope with their front appendages, immediately tangling their middle legs with their back legs, and somehow managing to tie themselves into what looked like a quantum knot. Mathematical impossibility detected, the AI announced, recalibrating reality parameters. While the safety systems were distracted with VRX this topology-defying predicament, X-Lixix oozed forward. I too shall attempt this human ritual of ascension. That's the spirit, Zara encouraged, choosing to ignore the way X-Lixix's surface was forming warning patterns in ultraviolet. The gelatinous student began to climb, surprising everyone by making it halfway up through a series of pseudopod manipulations that would have made an Earth amoeba proud. Then they made the mistake of looking down. Error gravity awareness achieved, X-Lixix announced in panic. Their semi-liquid form began to lose cohesion, stretching between their upper pseudopods still gripping the rope and their lower mass now trying to obey gravity. Oh dear, K-Tail commented, wisely expanding to their maximum diffusion to avoid any splashing. Don't panic, Zara called up. Just let go and slide down. A negative HFY vibrated. Surface tension protocols failing. Requesting immediate desiccation intervention. The gym's AI finally finished recalibrating reality around VRX's impossible knot, sprang into action. Moisture retention crisis detected. Deploying emergency hydration field. Wait, no, Zara started to say, but it was too late. The hydration field activated, turning the entire gym into what was essentially a giant humidifier. K-Tal immediately condensed in surprise, forming small gaseous droplets that began raining down on the rest of the class. VRX's knot absorbed the moisture and somehow became even more impossible, causing several physics students observing from the hallway to faint. Apparently, Vex explained, their field shifting to a bemused purple. Surviving your class has become something of a status symbol. The I survived human P badges that T6 crystallized during their final examination have become collector's items. Right on cue, a group of students floated past the office window. X-Lixix, now sporting a perfect gelatinous cube form achieved through what they called desperate adaptation to human mobility requirements, proudly displayed their badge in their uppermost layer. Behind them, VRX showed off by using their newly mastered leg coordination to walk and wave simultaneously. The Galactic Sports Federation has also been in touch, Vex added. Something about revolutionary training methodologies, and 17 other academies have requested human P teachers. So I can keep teaching, Zara asked. With some minor adjustments, Vex gestured at another document. All students must sign a waiver acknowledging that fun is a subjective human concept. The climbing rope must be equipped with quantum stabilizers and emergency teleporters. And we had to rename dodgeball to voluntary projectile evasion training for legal reasons. Through the window, they watched as K-Tal, now capable of maintaining a solid form for up to 3 minutes, demonstrated their new skill to a group of admiring first years. The badge on their mostly gaseous surface flickered with pride. Oh, and one more thing, Vex's probability field shifted to what might have been a smirk. The board has requested that you prepare a presentation on something called square dancing for next semester's curriculum review. Should I mention it's traditionally taught to human children? Zara asked innocently. The resulting probability fluctuation nearly crashed the Academy's quantum computers. Later that day, Zara stood in her gymnasium, now equipped with enough safety features to qualify as a small starship, watching her new class of eager students. Each one wore a safety harness, emergency beacon, and an expression of terrified determination. Welcome to human survival training, she announced, bouncing a dodgeball. Who's ready to have some fun? The emergency protocols activated before she even finished the sentence. It was going to be a great semester. 1 year after the infamous obstacle course incident. Now a required case study in galactic risk management courses, Zara stood before the Academy's packed auditorium during orientation day. The room was filled with eager students, nervous parents, and what appeared to be several undercover military observers trying very badly to blend in. As you can see, Principal Vex was saying, their probability field practically glowing with pride, our human survival training program has become the Academy's most prestigious elective. Our graduates are known throughout the galaxy for their unprecedented physical capabilities and psychological resilience. In the front row, last year's students sat like battle-hardened veterans. X-Lixix, who had maintained their perfect cube form through sheer determination, displayed all 7 of their I survived human P badges in a crystalline case. Next to them, VRX casually demonstrated their mastery of synchronized leg movement by knitting with all 6 appendages. K-Tal, now able to maintain solid form for impressive minutes at a time, was signing autographs for wide-eyed freshmen. Professor Chen's methodology has revolutionized our understanding of physical education, Vex continued. 12 other academies have launched their own human P programs, though none quite match our survival rates. Zara stepped up to the podium, trying not to smile too broadly at the mixture of awe and terror on the new students' faces. Thank you, Principal Vex. I'm excited to announce this semester's new curriculum edition. She pulled up a holovid of an Earth Middle School square dancing class. The audience watched in horrified fascination as young humans linked arms and spun in complex patterns. This, Zara announced cheerfully, is called square dancing. On Earth, we teach it to children as a light recreational activity. The resulting silence was broken only by the sound of several emergency teleporters activating. "Don't worry," she added, watching as the military observers frantically took notes. "We'll start with something simple, like the do as I do." In the front row, the veterans of her previous class began explaining to the newcomers why the term simple from a human instructor should trigger immediate evacuation protocols. As the chaos unfolded, Zara checked her schedule. After square dancing, she had planned to introduce them to something really interesting: volleyball. The galaxy would never be the same.